When the cleanup crew signed onto the abandoned St. Mercy Hospital contract, they were given one rule: do not enter room 304. Do not clean room 304. Do not open the door to room 304. There was no explanation. There didn't need to be one, because room 304 was never supposed to exist. Derek had been a nighttime environmental cleaner for years' malls, offices, closed clinics. This job seemed no different. Clear debris. Sanitize surfaces. Stay away from 304. The supervisor was strict. If you think you hear someone inside, you didn't. If the door looks open, it isn't. If you see light under the floor, walk away. And whatever you do, not clean room 304. Derek just laughed it off. Old hospitals always had stories, right? But on his second night, he noticed something strange. The room numbers 300, 302, 306, 308 were in perfect order. But where room 304 should have been, there was only a blank wall, smooth, white, freshly painted. Yet the sign above it, hanging from the ceiling, still read 304. Derek figured it must have been sealed off ages ago. That was, until the breathing started. It was around 2:08 a.m. when Derek first heard it. A faint inhale, and then a wet, gurgling exhale, coming from directly behind the wall where room 304 was supposed to be. He cautiously pressed his ear against the cold paint. The breathing seemed to mirror his own heartbeat, but faster and hungrier. He stumbled back, his boots scuffing the floor. That's when he noticed it. Fresh dirt, almost like grave soil, was smeared along the baseboard under the wall, as if something had dragged itself behind it very, very recently. He immediately reported it to his supervisor, who didn't even bother to look up from his paperwork. "Ignore it," he grumbled. "It's just old pipes." But later that night, Derek saw something that made his stomach twist into a knot. A cleaning cart was parked right outside the blank wall. He recognized it. It belonged to Maria, the only cleaner who'd been on the job longer than him. But Maria was nowhere in sight. Her mop bucket was dripping a thick, dark fluid. It wasn't water. It wasn't dirt. It was something darker, and it smelled metallic, like iron. Taped to the bucket's handle was a torn scrap of paper, smeared with that same dirt. On it, scrawled in a shaky hand, were the words, "Don't clean room 304. On the fourth night, Derek's flashlight flickered and died. He shook it, smacked it against his palm, and when the beam finally sputtered back to life, the blank wall was gone. In its place stood a door. An old wooden frame, a pane of fogged hospital glass, and a rusted number plate, 304. But the door was breathing. The glass panel seemed to expand slightly with each inhale, and fogged with condensation on the exhale. Derek started backing away slowly, and then the handle twitched. It turned. Someone or something inside was opening it. Before the door could fully crack open, he threw his entire body weight against it, slamming it shut. From the other side came a slow knock. 5 distinct beats. Then a whisper, a voice that slithered through the wood. "You're late, Derek." His blood turned to ice. No one knew he was working this floor tonight. No one should know his name. And no one, absolutely no one, should be in that room. Derek ran. He sprinted down the corridor, a blur past flickering lights and empty, desolate nurse stations. He slammed into the supervisor's office, out of breath. The supervisor didn't look surprised at all. He just sighed, a tired, defeated sound. 304 opened again, didn't it? Derek could only nod, his body shaking uncontrollably. The supervisor got up and locked the office door. "Listen to me carefully," he said, his voice low. Room 304 was sealed after the fire. There were no survivors. But sometimes, the people who died in that room, they remember what it felt like to be alive. Derek's voice was barely a whisper. "What's actually in there?" The supervisor's eyes darkened. Nothing living. Just then, all the hallway lights went out, plunging them into absolute darkness. Derek heard the breathing again, but this time, it wasn't behind the wall. It was right behind him in the office. He turned slowly. The supervisor stared past Derek, his eyes wide with terror. "Don't let it touch you," he croaked. A cold hand gripped Derek's shoulder. He screamed. The entire hospital shook. When security finally arrived 15 minutes later, the supervisor's office was empty. The only things left were a cleaning mop propped against the desk and a single dirty footprint leading back down the hall, straight to room 304. Except the door to room 304 was gone again. There was just a blank wall, freshly painted, and on it, someone had written in dripping black letters, "Don't clean room 304. The cleaning supervisor quit the next day, and on Derek's final time card, the last entry was stamped. 2:08 a.m. room 304 completed, but no one had recorded any cleanup order. No one ever found Derek. But some nights, late shift workers swear they hear the sound of mopping coming from the east wing. And breathing, always breathing, coming from behind the wall where room 304 isn't. Every townhouse on Lawrence Street was built with the same attic, same beams, same insulation, same narrow crawl space. But according to police reports, only one family ever heard breathing coming from above them. And by the time they realized what it meant, there was nowhere left to run. Mark and Alyssa had lived in their new home for only 5 days when it happened. It was 2:13 a.m. A soft, steady rhythm echoed from above their bedroom ceiling. A slow inhale, followed by a slower exhale. Mark sat up first. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. Alyssa listened. At first, she thought it was just the pipes or the AC unit kicking on. Then the breathing changed. It hitched, paused for a moment, and then resumed. But it sounded closer this time. Mark grabbed a broom from the corner and tapped the ceiling with the handle. The breathing stopped for 3 seconds. Then it shifted, moving until it was directly above their bed. They didn't say a word. They just grabbed their pillows and slept on the living room sofa that night. The next morning, Mark pulled down the attic ladder, armed with a flashlight. He was expecting to find raccoons or maybe a loose vent pipe. As he climbed up, he was met with silence. The attic was dusty and still. There were no animals, no tracks, and no open vents. But the insulation was disturbed. It looked like something had crawled between the beams, not on top of them. A long, thin tunnel had been carved under the fluffy pink insulation, a path that stretched all the way from the hatch to the space directly above their bedroom. Mark followed it, his flashlight beam cutting through the gloom until he reached the far wall, and that's when he found it. A small, round indentation pressed into the insulation. It was the distinct shape of a human face, looking downward. 2 depressions for eyes, a line for a nose, another for a mouth. It wasn't carved. It was pressed as if from above. He backed out of the attic as fast as he could and sealed the hatch shut with a roll of duct tape. That night, at 2:12 a.m., he and Alyssa heard it again. Inhale, exhale. But this time, there was a soft dragging sound accompanying it, like fingernails scraping lightly across wood. On the third night, the breathing grew louder, heavier. It sounded wet. Alyssa shook Mark awake, her body trembling. "It said my name," she whispered, her voice cracking with terror. He listened intently. Through the ceiling vent, a low, vibrating voice rasped her name. "Alyssa!" The metal vent cover rattled. Mark fumbled for his phone and opened the attic camera app he'd set up earlier. The feed was pitch black, except for one thing: 2 pale, circular reflections. They were at eye level, staring directly down at the camera lens. Then they blinked. Mark dropped the phone. The breathing from the attic grew faster, more excited. Then they heard hands, the sound of palms slapping against the plaster above them, crawling rapidly toward the attic hatch. Mark and Alyssa bolted out of the room. Behind them, something began pounding on the ceiling with enough force to shake clouds of dust loose. They didn't stop running, not even when the breathing reached the hallway vent and came from below them. In the morning, the police arrived. They opened the attic hatch carefully, expecting the worst, but there was nothing. No footprints. No signs of a forced entry. No sign that anything had ever lived up there. But then the officer checking the bedroom froze. "Sir, come look at this." Under the bed, the wooden floor panels had been pushed upward from below. A small gap, no wider than 2 inches, ran along the floorboards. It was as if something had been crawling in the crawl space beneath the house, not in the attic. When officers opened the crawl space hatch outside, the smell hit them first. Rot, dampness, and the faint, stale scent of breath. In the dirt, they found drag marks leading directly under the master bedroom. The tunnel ended in a small, hollowed-out space. Inside, it was a flattened, discolored pillow, a pile of grayish hair, and dozens of fingernail marks, carved upward, scratching at the bottom of the bedroom floor. But there was something else. A crude, childlike drawing had been sketched onto a wooden beam with a piece of charcoal. It showed 2 stick figures sleeping in a bed, and a tall, stretched-out figure crouched beneath them. Mark stared at it in horror. An officer turned on her flashlight and swept the beam across the crawlspace. She froze. Against the far concrete wall, written in long, smudged finger smears of charcoal, was a sentence. "I heard you too." A sudden exhale echoed in the darkness behind them. A wet, hungry breath. The officers scrambled out, sealing the crawl space behind them. Mark and Alyssa moved out within the hour. The new owners haven't complained about any strange sounds. Not yet. But some neighbors say that on certain nights, around 2:12 a.m., they see movement beneath the house, the dirt shifting, something tunneling slowly, and breathing. The police told her, if someone rings your doorbell at midnight and refuses to show their face, don't open the door. Don't speak to them. Don't acknowledge them. But the midnight ringer wasn't looking for attention. He was looking for permission. It was exactly 12:03 a.m. when Megan first heard it. Ding dong. It wasn't a quick, impatient press. It was a long, slow push on the doorbell, the kind that vibrated through the entire house, making the walls hum. She lived alone in a quiet cul-de-sac, a street so silent you could hear a leaf fall. No neighbors were awake. There was no wind, no stray animals, just an unnerving stillness. She grabbed her phone and pulled up her security camera feed. A man stood on her porch. He was tall and eerily still. His head was tilted down, his face completely hidden in the shadow of a dark hoodie. He didn't move a muscle. He didn't shift his weight. He didn't seem to be breathing. He just stood there, a little too close to the door. Megan's hand trembled as she flipped on the porch light. The sudden brightness didn't make him flinch. He didn't react at all. Her heart pounded against her ribs. She spoke through the intercom, her voice barely a whisper. "Can I help you?" There was no answer. Instead, the figure leaned forward, slowly, deliberately, pressing his ear against the cold wood of her front door. It was a horrifyingly intimate gesture, as if he was trying to listen to the frantic beat of her heart inside. Megan scrambled backward, her breath catching in her throat. She fumbled with the deadbolts, locking every single one. Then she called the police. She described the man, the time, the chilling way he stood there. But by the time the patrol car pulled up, he was gone, vanished without a trace. The next night, her dread returned with the darkness. She tried to tell herself it was a one-time thing, a prank. But as the clock ticked past midnight, She knew. At exactly 12:03 a.m., the doorbell rang again. The same long, slow press. The same bone-chilling stillness. Megan's hands shook as she checked the camera. The man in the hoodie was back. But this time, he was even closer. His forehead was nearly touching the doorframe. His presence more invasive, more threatening. Gathering all her courage, Megan whispered into the intercom, her voice cracking, "Who are you?" The man's head slowly lifted, just an inch. Not enough to see his face, only the pale skin of his chin. Then, a sound came through the speaker, a whisper. Megan opened the door. Her blood turned to ice. She hadn't said her name. There was no name on her mailbox, no nameplate on her house. How could he know? She backed away from the door, her mind racing. The man whispered again, his voice echoing through the small speaker. "Let me in, Megan. It's cold outside." The voice was wrong. It was raspy and strained, like someone was trying to imitate human speech, but couldn't quite get it right. It was hollow and unnatural. She called the police again, her voice shaking so badly she could barely speak. They arrived in under 5 minutes, faster than last time. But just like before, he was gone. No footprints on the lawn. No tire tracks in the street. Nothing. The officer looked at her, his expression grim. He said something that shattered her last bit of hope. "Ma'am, there have been other calls about a man matching that description. He always comes at the same time. We don't know what he wants." The third night, sleep was impossible. Megan sat on her living room couch, clutching a kitchen knife in one hand and her phone in the other. Her eyes were glued to the clock. 12:01, 12:02, then 12:03 a.m. came and went. The doorbell didn't ring. A wave of relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. Instead of the bell, she heard a soft tapping on the living room window. 3 taps, slow, delicate, like the sound of fingernails on glass. Her heart leaped into her throat. She checked the front door camera. The porch was empty. Her phone buzzed. A motion detection alert. It was the backyard camera. She switched to the feed immediately. The man stood in her backyard. He was closer than ever before. His head was pressed right against the glass of her sliding door, his form a dark silhouette against the faint moonlight, as if he could see right through the curtains and into her soul. Then he lifted his hand and tapped the glass again. His whisper came through her phone's microphone. "Please let me in, Megan." She stumbled back from the window, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Her phone buzzed again. A new notification. Side camera triggered. She switched the feed. The man now stood at the side of the house, right beside the small basement window. Another notification. Garage camera. He was there too. Another. Front camera again. He was back on the porch. It didn't make any sense. He was in 4 places at once. Then, a horrifying realization hit her. These weren't recordings playing on a loop. They were all live. The man wasn't teleporting. There was more than one of them. Megan's fingers fumbled as she dialed 911, her voice trembling. "They're everywhere. They're surrounding the house." The operator's voice was calm but urgent. "Stay calm, Mom. Officers are en route. Do not engage. Stay away from all doors and windows." Megan backed away from the living room into the central hallway of her home, the one place with no windows. A new sound echoed through the house. It wasn't the doorbell. It wasn't tapping. It was a soft, wet-breathing sound coming from right outside the front door. She stared at her phone, at the hallway camera feed aimed at the entrance. One of the figures was standing there again. But now, his head was tilted all the way back at an unnatural, impossible angle. His face pointed directly at the ceiling. She still couldn't see his eyes, only the dark, gaping hole where his mouth should be. The intercom on her wall crackled to life one last time. His voice, now multiplied, came through. a chorus of strained whispers. We're already inside. In that instant, all the lights in the house went out. Megan screamed. The camera feed on her phone dissolved into a screen of hissing static. The house plunged into darkness and a profound, terrifying silence. When police arrived 3 minutes later, the front door was still locked from the inside. All the windows were sealed shut. There was no sign of forced entry anywhere. But Megan was gone. The only thing they found was her phone, lying on the hallway floor, still recording audio. The last thing it captured was the sound of dozens of footsteps slowly, deliberately, walking down the hallway toward her bedroom, and the sound of multiple voices whispering her name. 12 different voices, all identical. Reports say that on some nights, random doorbells still ring on Lawrence Street at 12:03 a.m. sharp. No one answers. No one dares to look. Because everyone in that neighborhood knows, if the midnight ringer shows up at your door, you're already on the list.